On the far side of the galaxy, the blue and silver towers of the Lyrae capital shone under the twin suns. Princess Myra stood at her bedroom window, looking out at the busy city. She pressed her palm to the cool glass, wishing she could feel as calm as the view seemed. But inside, her mind was full of worry and fear. The room behind her was quiet, filled with the gentle scent of flowers from the royal gardens. It was supposed to be a peaceful place, but nothing felt peaceful to Myra. Now, her mother, Queen Selene, had told her only a week before that she would soon meet her future husband. Myra had not expected this at all. She was still young, with many dreams for her own life. But duty to her people came first. This marriage was not just for her, but for the good of all Lyrae and their new human allies. The humans had come to their world in ships that were strong and strange. They brought new ideas, new hopes, and also new fears. Myra had heard stories about them. Some stories said they were kind, but many said they were cold, demanding, and even dangerous. She did not know what to believe. Now, a human named Ethan would come to the palace. He was chosen by the humans to be their ambassador and her husband. Myra knew little about him. She imagined a tall man with sharp eyes and a loud voice. Would he expect her to obey him? Would he be cruel, like some of the old stories said? Or would he be gentle? Queen Selene entered the room quietly. She watched her daughter for a moment, then spoke in a soft voice. You do not have to be afraid. Myra, I know you worry, but this is a chance to build something new. Myra turned to face her mother. What if the stories are true? What if he does not care about me at all? What if I am just a piece in a game to him? Selene stepped forward and hugged her. I do not believe all humans are the same. Every person is different. I have spoken with Ethan through the translators. He seems polite and thoughtful. You must see with your own eyes and listen with your own heart. Myra nodded, but the worry in her chest did not go away. The palace was being prepared for the human guest. Banners and flowers lined the halls. Servants moved quickly, making sure everything was perfect. Myra's friends came to her. Room whispering about the human visitor. Some were excited. Some were scared. One friend, Lyra, squeezed Myra's hand and said, Maybe he will be kind. Maybe you will change the world together. Myra wished she could believe that. She dressed in her finest white robe with silver threads that caught the sunlight. Her hair was brushed smooth, and a small crown rested on her head. She felt like a stranger in her own clothes. Still, she kept her chin high as she walked to the meeting hall. The hall was bright and wide, filled with music from the royal musicians. Myra's heart pounded as the doors opened. A group of humans entered, led by Ethan. He was taller than anyone in the room. His skin was fair, and his hair was brown and neat. His eyes were blue and steady, but not cold. He walked with slow steps, looking at everything with care. Ethan carried a small box in his hands. When he reached Myra, he bowed politely. Myra bowed back, remembering her lessons about human customs. Ethan opened the box and showed a simple gift, a small earth flower pressed between glass. For you, Princess Myra, he said in a quiet voice. This flower grows near my home. It reminds me of hope. Myra took the gift. It was simple, but thoughtful. She looked up at Ethan and nodded. Thank you, Ethan. The meeting began with speeches from both sides. Queen Selene spoke about trust and peace. The human leader, ambassador, Carter, promised friendship. Ethan stood at Myra's side the whole time. He did not speak unless spoken to. He listened, his hands folded in front of him. After the speeches, Myra and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. Myra kept her distance at first. She watched him carefully. Ethan did not rush her. He looked at the flowers and the bright sky. Your home is beautiful, he said. I have never seen such colors before. Myra found herself answering. The gardens are old. My grandmother planted many of these flowers. Each one has a story. Ethan smiled. Would you tell me a story? Myra hesitated, then spoke softly about the blue starflowers, which were said to bring calm to those who touch them. Ethan listened, not interrupting. He bent down to look at the flowers, but did not pick any. I hope you do not mind my asking questions, he said. I want to learn. For a moment, Myra forgot her fears. She saw that Ethan was not loud or demanding. He did not seem to expect anything from her except kindness. Still, she wondered if this gentle face was just for show. Would he change after the marriage? They returned to the palace. Servants watched them, and Myra could hear their whispers. The day was full of meetings and plans. Myra sat quietly, listening as her mother and the human leaders discussed the alliance. She was there as a symbol, but no one asked what she wanted. That night, Myra sat by her window again. She looked at the small flower Ethan had given her. It was nothing like the grand jewels or treasures she had seen before, but it felt special. She wondered if he had chosen it himself. She wondered if he felt alone here, just as she did. Days passed with more meetings. Myra and Ethan saw each other often. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they walked in silence. Each time, Myra looked for signs of the human she had feared. But Ethan always spoke kindly. He never touched her without asking. He always said thank you to the servants. He smiled at children in the halls. One afternoon, Myra watched Ethan help a young servant who had dropped a tray. He knelt down and picked up the cups, speaking gently to the boy. Myra saw how the servant smiled at Ethan, his fear forgotten. Myra's own fear began to fade a little. At dinner, Ethan sat next to Myra. The meal was full of foods he did not know, but he tried everything and thanked the cooks. He asked Myra about her favorite dishes and listened to her answers. Myra saw that he was trying hard to learn about her world. Before the night ended, Ethan turned to Myra. I know this is not easy for you. It is not easy for me either, but I hope, with time, we can understand each other. Myra nodded. I hope so too. As the stars rose above the palace, Myra felt a little more hope in her heart. The human named Ethan was not what she expected. He was gentle, careful, and kind. Maybe, she thought, things could be different. Maybe, with time, she could find a way to trust him. As sleep came to her that night, the worries were still there, but they were softer now, and the small flower from earth glowed softly on her bedside table. Myra woke the next morning feeling a little less afraid. The light coming through her window was soft and warm. She remembered her walk in the gardens with Ethan and how he listened to her story about the blue starflowers. It was strange, too. Think of a human as gentle, but she could not deny what she had seen. Still, she was careful. She knew one good day did not mean everything would be easy. As she dressed for breakfast, she told herself to watch and wait. The palace was full of noise and movement. Servants rushed to finish their work before the human guests came down for the morning meal. Myra saw Ethan in the dining hall, talking with one of her teachers. Madame Marie Ethan asked polite questions about the history of Luray, and Madame Marie seemed happy to share her knowledge. Myra noticed how Ethan paid attention to every word. He even tried to pronounce some Luray words, though his accent made the servants laugh quietly. Ethan laughed with them, not angry at all. After breakfast, Queen Selena called Myra and Ethan to the throne room. The queen wanted them to learn more about each other's ways. She told Myra to show Ethan the oldest parts of the palace. Myra led Ethan through stone halls filled with carvings of her people's history. She pointed out the stories of great Luray queens, brave warriors, and times of peace and war. Ethan listened and asked many questions. Sometimes he wrote notes in a small book. Myra liked that he wanted to remember what she said. When they reached the Hall of Mirrors, Myra stopped. The hall was a special place for her. She had come there often as a child to think or to calm her mind. The mirrors showed many shapes and colors, reflecting the world in different ways. I come here when I want to feel quiet inside, she said. Ethan looked at the mirrors, his face thoughtful. It is beautiful, he said. We have nothing like this on Earth. For a while, they stood in silence. Myra felt the calm of the hall surround her. Ethan did not rush her or fill the silence with talk. When they left the hall, Myra felt lighter, as if she had shared something important and Ethan had understood. Later, Myra led Ethan to the palace kitchens. The cooks were surprised but happy to see their princess. Ethan thanked them for the meal from the night before. He asked to learn how some of the food was made. The cook showed him how to shape sweet cakes from blue fruit, and Ethan tried to follow their steps. He made a mess, but everyone laughed, including Myra. She had not laughed like that in a long time. As they left the kitchens, Ethan turned to Myra. "Thank you for showing me your home. I am grateful." Myra nodded, feeling a little shy. She realized she had started to enjoy his company. She still had her worries, but they were softer now. It was easier to believe he was sincere when she saw him treating everyone with care. In the afternoon, Myra went to the palace gardens alone. She needed to think. The sun was bright, and the air was sweet with the scent of new flowers. As she walked, she saw her friend Lyra sitting on a bench. Lyra waved her over. "How was your morning with the human?" Lyra asked, smiling. "It was not as I expected," Myra admitted. "He is different from the stories. He listens. He tries to understand," Lyra nodded. "Sometimes stories are wrong. Sometimes we just need to see for ourselves." Myra thought about that as she wandered the gardens. She saw Ethan a short time later. He was kneeling beside a group of young Lyra children who were playing with bright stones. Ethan was teaching them how to stack the stones into towers, showing them tricks with a gentle smile. The children laughed and ran circles around him. Myra watched from a distance, feeling something warm in her chest. That night, there was a formal dinner in the great hall. The hall was decorated with silver lanterns and blue banners. The human guests sat beside the Lyra nobles. Myra was seated next to Ethan again. The meal was long, with many courses and speeches. Myra grew tired, but she watched Ethan closely. He tried every dish, even those that looked strange to him. He listened to the nobles' stories, smiling and thanking them for their words. When the music began, Ethan watched the Lyra dancers with wonder. Myra explained the meaning of the slow, turning dance, and Ethan asked if she liked to dance. Myra blushed. "I have not danced for a long time. Would you like to try?" Ethan asked, holding out his hand. Myra hesitated, but Ethan did not press her. He let his hand rest in the air, waiting for her choice. After a moment, Myra placed her hand in his. The two of them stepped out onto the smooth floor. Myra led it first, guiding Ethan through the steps. He was clumsy but careful, and he laughed at his mistakes. The room was quiet as they moved together, and Myra could feel everyone watching, but she did not mind. For the first time, she felt proud to stand beside Ethan. After the dance, Myra and Ethan left the hall together. The night was cool and full of stars. They walked in silence for a time, listening to the quiet sounds of the city below. Ethan spoke first. "I want to do my best to honor you and your people. I know I am not perfect, and I have much to learn. But I promise I will always try." Myra looked at him. "You are not what I expected." "I was afraid, but I think I can begin to trust you," Ethan smiled. "That means a great deal to me." They returned to their rooms, each thinking about the day. Myra felt hope blooming inside her, like the first flowers of spring. She still had questions and fears, but now she also had a small piece of trust. She kept the pressed flower from Ethan on her bedside table, and for the first time since she heard of the marriage, she felt that maybe things could work out. The next days passed with more lessons and walks. Myra and Ethan learned about each other's customs. Ethan asked about the meaning of the colors in Lyra clothes. Myra showed him how to greet elders with a respectful bow. Ethan tried to teach Myra some simple words in English. They laughed at their mistakes, and the distance between them grew smaller. Myra watched Ethan closely. Every day she saw more kindness. He thanked every servant, learned their names, and never acted like he was better than anyone. Myra's friends started to notice too. Some of them, who were afraid before, now spoke to Ethan and asked him questions about Earth. Myra's world was changing, and she was changing too. One afternoon, a group of Lyra nobles came to Myra with questions. They wanted to know if she was happy with the alliance. Myra thought about her answer. "I am learning," she said honestly. "Ethan is not what I expected. He is gentle and tries to understand our ways." The nobles nodded, seeming pleased. Myra realized her words mattered. She was not just a symbol for peace. She was becoming a bridge between their two worlds. As the sun set that day, Myra sat on a balcony and watched the lights of the city. She thought about the old stories and how easy it was to fear what you did not know. Ethan was still a mystery, in some ways, but she was beginning to see that kindness was the same in any world. She wanted to believe that their future could be better than their past. Myra woke early, her mind full of thoughts about the future. The flower from Earth still lay on her bedside table. She reached out and touched it gently. She wondered if the flower was a symbol of new beginnings or if it was just a small piece of a world she did not know well. Breakfast in the palace was quiet. Many Lyre nobles still watched her and Ethan with curious eyes. Ethan spoke kindly to the servants, thanking them for the meal. When he saw Myra looking at him, he smiled and nodded. Myra felt a warm glow in her chest. She was less afraid now, but she still kept some distance. Later, Myra and Ethan met with the Council of Elders. The elders were older Lyre with thin silver hair and wise eyes. They asked Myra if she felt ready for the marriage. Myra said she was learning to trust Ethan, but she was honest that she still had questions. Elder Reno spoke first. "You are at the center of a great promise, Princess. You must show us what this marriage can bring. Do you feel it in your heart?" Myra looked at Ethan. She saw him bow his head slightly, showing respect. She took a deep breath. "I feel hope. Ethan treats me and my people with respect. He listens and learns. I believe he will keep his promise." Elder Renos nodded slowly. "Then we will watch and support this bond. But know that our people will judge by your words and actions." Myra and Ethan left the council hall. Myra felt the weight of the elders' words. She knew their approval was not given lightly. But she also felt strength in her belief that kindness could bridge worlds. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "I know the path will not be easy, but I will stand by you no matter what." Myra looked at him and nodded. "Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you know." That afternoon, the royal garden was busy with visitors from other human worlds. Myra and Ethan were to lead a tour. Myra showed the guests the rare moon lila that bloomed only under a silver moon. Ethan spoke about Earth's night gardens where flowers glowed under lanterns. As they walked, a sudden noise broke the calm. A young human scientist tripped over a root and knocked over a pot of moon lily seedlings. The pots fell and cracked, spilling soil and plants onto the path. The scientist gasped, tears in her eyes. Myra stepped forward, ready to speak with calm dignity, but Ethan kneeled beside the scientist and helped her gather the seedlings. He picked up broken pots and soothed her fears. Myra watched as he worked, his sleeves rolled up, hands gentle in the soil. The young scientist looked up at Ethan. With tears in her eyes, "I am so sorry," she said. "I ruined them," Ethan smiled kindly. "Accidents happen. We can replant these? It will take time, but we will help." Myra felt respect grow in her heart. He was not afraid to get his hands dirty. He did not hide from mistakes. Myra helped him gather the seedlings and pressed her hands into the soil alongside him. When they finished, the garden looked neat again, and the guests smiled. Myra realized that the guests had seen more than a tour. They had seen humanity's gentle side in action. That evening, Myra walked with Ethan to a small pavilion by the palace lake. The water was still, and the sky was dotted with stars. The breeze carried the scent of night flowers. "I want to learn more about your world," Ethan said. "Tell me about your childhood." Myra sat on the bench and thought. "I grew up near these towers. I spent many nights looking at the stars and imagining what might be out there. My father used to bring me here to teach me about the planets. He showed me maps of the galaxy." Ethan listened with interest. "I did the same with my daughter when she was young. She loved to hear stories about other worlds." Myra's heart skipped. Ethan had a daughter. She thought about what that meant. Ethan was not just an ambassador, he was a father. She felt a new respect for him. Knowing he had brought his child up with care, they sat quietly for a while, watching the moon's reflection. In the lake, Myra thought about the promise of marriage and what it meant for both their peoples. She felt a mix of hope and fear, but she knew that with Ethan by her side, she could face the unknown. The next day, a festival began in the palace grounds. It was a celebration of the alliance with music, dance, and games. Myra wore a simple blue gown that matched her eyes. Ethan wore a suit of dark fabric with silver trim. The festival was bright and joyful. Myra and Ethan greeted the guests together. They joined hands in a symbol of unity. Myra saw the faces of her people light up with excitement. She saw the surprise and delight in the eyes of the human guests. During the dance, Ethan held Myra's hand gently as they moved around the circle. Myra felt his steady grip and knew he would not let her fall. She smiled at him and he smiled back. Later they stood on a stage to speak to the crowd. Myra let Ethan speak first. He spoke of his love for her world and his promise to protect their bond. Then Myra spoke. Her voice was clear and soft. We come from different stars, but we share the same hopes. We both cherish peace and kindness. Today we stand together as one. I believe our future will be bright because we walk it side by side. Myra looked at Ethan. Thank you for helping me see that love can grow even in places we do not expect. Myra felt warmth flood her chest as the crowd cheered. That night, Myra and Ethan walked back to the palace. They stopped before the gates. Ethan turned to Myra. I have never felt so welcomed in a new world. Your people have shown me great kindness, Myra took his hand, and I have never felt so understood. Thank you for teaching me that trust can overcome fear. Myra looked up at the stars and felt peace in her heart. As they parted for the night, Myra placed her hand on the small flower on her bedside table. She thought about the days ahead and knew that each day would bring new challenges. But she also knew that with Ethan's gentle nature and her own growing trust, they could face anything together. Myra felt the dawn light on her face and opened her eyes slowly. She thought of the days she had spent with Ethan and how her fear had changed to something like curiosity. Today would be different. Today she would share more of her world with him. After breakfast, Queen Selena asked Myra and Ethan to join the royal advisors in the strategy hall. The hall was filled with maps and models of star systems. Liray and human leaders stood around a long table. They spoke of trade routes, defense plans, and cultural exchanges. Myra sat beside Ethan, listening carefully as he offered simple suggestions based on his experiences on Earth. One model showed a small moon that had rare minerals. Ethan suggested sending miners from both worlds to work together. The advisors looked surprised but pleased. Myra noticed how courage gave her people hope. She felt proud of him. After the meeting, Myra took Ethan to a private balcony overlooking the city. The sun was high and warm. Myra pointed out landmarks. She spoke about the ancient temples and the tall spires. These towers were built by my ancestors, Myra said. They were leaders in peace and knowledge, Ethan smiled. They are beautiful. You have a rich history here. Myra felt her heart lift. She realized she liked showing him her world. He listened without judgment. They walked back inside and past the grand library. Myra paused. Would you like to see my favorite books? She asked. Ethan's eyes lit up. Yes, please. Inside the library, shelves reached the ceiling, filled with scrolls and books. Myra led Ethan to a section with blue-covered volumes. She pulled out a book about Lyray's star maps. This shows the paths our explorers took long ago, she explained. Ethan took the book gently and traced a path with his finger. On Earth, we call this the Great Voyage, Myra smiled. This was our version. They spent an hour reading side by side. Ethan asked questions and Myra answered. She felt connected to him by the words and stories. As the day went on, a messenger arrived with urgent news. A group of human traders had been stranded on a small moon due to an engine failure. The moon was nearby but outside the safe zone. The traders were safe but needed supplies and help. Queen Selena and the advisors gathered again. Myra looked at Ethan. Would you help lead the rescue mission? Ethan nodded without hesitation. Yes, I will go. Myra surprised herself by asking, May I join you? Ethan paused. Of course. Myra felt her heart race. The idea of leaving the palace frightened her, but she knew she could not let fear stop her. She wanted to stand with him. Within an hour, Myra and Ethan boarded a small transport ship. The Luray pilot, Captain Nira, greeted them. "Welcome aboard, Princess Myra, Ambassador Ethan," she said. "We will reach the moon in 2 hours." As the ship lifted off, Myra looked back at the palace. She felt nervous but also excited. She sat next to Ethan, who showed her how to use the ship's simple controls. Myra listened and learned. The journey was smooth until they reached the moon's orbit. Small rocks floated around them. Captain Nira guided them carefully through the field. When they landed on the rocky surface, the traders came running toward them. They wore dusty suits, but they smiled with relief when they saw Myra and Ethan. "Thank you for coming," said one trader, Maya. "We feared we might be here for weeks." Ethan helped Maya with her gear. "You are safe now. We will help you repair your ship." Myra joined the traders, bringing water and food. She saw how tired they were. She knelt beside a young trader who had a hurt ankle. Myra gently wrapped a bandage around it. "Thank you, Princess," the trader said softly. "You are very kind." Myra realized she had never held someone in need like this before. She felt a gentle strength in her heart. They worked through the afternoon. Ethan and Captain Nira fixed the engine. Myra comforted the traders and gave them hope. As the sun set on the rocky moon, the traders cheered when their ship's lights came back on. Myra and Ethan watched as the traders prepared to leave. Maya hugged Myra. "We will never forget your help." Ethan shook each trader's hand. "Safe journey home." When the traders left, Myra turned to Ethan. "They were scared." "I was scared, but we helped them together," Ethan smiled. "You were brave, Myra. You have a gentle heart and a strong spirit." Myra felt warmth in her chest. She looked out at the stars. She had faced her fear and found courage. She had seen how two worlds could work together. On the journey back to the palace, Ethan held her hand. "Today, I saw why you will be a great queen." Myra looked at him, her eyes shining. "Thank you for letting me be by your side." As the palace came into view, Myra felt a new confidence. She knew she would face more challenges, but she also knew that with Ethan's gentle nature and her own growing courage, they could meet anything the future held. Myra awoke before sunrise, the sky a soft pink. She felt the memory of the rescue still in her mind. She dressed quickly and made her way to the gardens where Ethan often walked in the morning. She found him by the silver fountain, watching the water catch the first light. "Good morning," Ethan said, turning to her with a smile. "Good morning," Myra replied. She paused, looking at the fountain. "Thank you for letting me come yesterday. I felt closer to you when we worked together." Ethan nodded. "I felt the same. We made a good team." They walked in silence among the rose arches. The air was cool, and birds sang unseen in the trees. Myra took a deep breath and spoke. "I want to show you more of our world. There is a valley where the moon lily glow at night. Please come with me this evening." Ethan agreed easily. "I would be honored." The day passed in meetings. Myra sat beside her mother and the advisors as they discussed new trade routes. Ethan spoke with the human traders who had recovered from their ordeal. He asked about their journey back home and took notes in his book. At noon, a message arrived from the Human Council. They questioned the safety of the Lyrae transport ships. They asked for more tests before trusting them again. Some traders had spoken badly of the Lyrae ship design, saying the moon mission was too risky. Myra and Ethan met with the council's messenger. Myra felt a sting of anger when she heard the words. She looked at Ethan, who listened calmly. "Our ships follow strict safety rules," Myra said. "They carried many people safely. The rescue proved they work well." The messenger shook his head. "Humans are cautious. We need more proof." Myra felt frustration rise in her chest. She had seen how well her people worked with the humans. Now their trust wavered. She looked at Ethan, hoping he would help. Ethan closed his book. "I will speak for you. I will show them the data from the rescue mission. It will prove the ships are safe." Myra felt a wave of relief. "Thank you." That afternoon, Ethan met with the council and shared the notes from the rescue. He spoke of the teamwork between human and Lyrae crews. He showed how the ship's design had protected everyone on the moon. The council members listened, some nodding slowly, after the meeting. As Ethan returned to the palace, a group of traders blocked his path. They were human traders who still doubted the Liray technology. One of them, a tall man in a dark uniform, stepped forward. "Ambassador Ethan," he said, his voice sharp, "your words may calm some, but we need proof. We will not risk our people." "On Liray ships?" Ethan stood calm. "I hear your concerns. I ask you to trust the evidence." "Myra and her people saved lives yesterday," the trader sneered. "That was a simple repair." "What about long journeys?" Ethan met his eyes. "What if we plan a joint mission, the first long journey with both of us on board?" The trader hesitated, then turned away. Ethan reached out, but the trader had left. Myra saw what had happened and hurried to Ethan's side. "Are you all right?" she asked. Ethan sighed. "They still doubt." Myra placed her hand on his arm. "I will help. I will go with you on the first joint journey." Ethan looked at her, surprised. "You would do that?" Myra nodded. "I want to show them we trust each other." Ethan smiled warmly. "Then we will do it together." Days passed as they prepared for the mission. Myra trained with the navigators and engineers. Ethan studied the route and helped plan supplies. They worked side by side like two parts of one team. On the day of departure, many people gathered to see them off. Myra stood in her blue gown and Ethan in his uniform. Queen Selene and Ambassador Carter watched with pride. The small shuttle lifted off, carrying both human and Liray flags. Myra and Ethan sat together, looking out the window at the receding palace. Myra felt a thrill of excitement and fear. The journey was smooth until they reached the asteroid belt. Space rocks surrounded them. The pilot guided the shuttle with skill, but the ride grew bumpy. Suddenly, alarms sounded. A small asteroid struck the shuttle's hull. The cabin shook and lights blinked. Myra grabbed Ethan's hand. Ethan reached for the controls. "Hold on," he said. He helped the pilot steer away from the debris. Myra saw fear in the pilot's eyes, but also determination. After a tense moment, they cleared the belt. "The alarms stopped." Myra exhaled and turned to Ethan. "You saved us." Ethan shook his head. "We saved each other." Myra felt her heart swell. She realized they had already proven their trust. The shuttle continued to their destination, a distant trading station. When they arrived, the station's leader greeted them warmly. He led them through safe docking and offered a grand welcome. The traders on the station watched as Myra and Ethan emerged together. They saw Myra's calm strength and Ethan's steady kindness. When Myra spoke of the journey, her voice held confidence. By the time they left the station, the traders had agreed to use Liray ships in the next supply run. Myra and Ethan had shown that trust could be built through action. On the way home, Myra and Ethan sat side by side. Myra looked at the stars and thought about their bond. "We changed many minds," Myra said. Ethan nodded. "We did it together." Myra placed her hand on his. "I am grateful," Ethan smiled. "As am I." They returned to the Liray homeworld as heroes. The palace gates opened wide and the people cheered. Myra felt joy and relief. She looked at Ethan and knew that their partnership was strong. That night, Myra placed her hand on the earth flower on her bedside table. It had dried but still held its simple shape. She thought of the journey and how their gentle nature had won hearts. She knew that Part 5 of their story had shown the true power of trust and unity, and she fell asleep with hope in her heart. Myra woke before dawn, her heart light. Today was the day she and Ethan would wed. The palace was quiet as she dressed. She chose a simple gown of soft silver with blue threads like morning light. She placed the small pressed flower from earth at her waist. It was a promise of hope. Down the hall, Ethan prepared in his chambers. He spoke with Captain Nira and Ambassador Carter about the final plans. When he saw Myra's gift on his table, a smooth blue stone from the Liray Gardens, he knew she thought of him. They met in the grand hall. The room was filled with guests from both worlds. The Liray nobles wore elegant robes and the human envoys wore their uniforms. Queen Selene stood at the front beside Ambassador Carter. Both looked proud. Myra took Ethan's hand and walked forward. The music began, a soft, flowing melody of strings and wind instruments. Myra felt her steps steady beneath her. She looked at Ethan, his blue eyes held warmth and promise. Queen Selene spoke first in a clear voice. Today, two worlds join in friendship and love. May this union bring peace to our people. Ambassador Carter followed with words of goodwill from the humans. Then Ethan spoke. He turned to Myra. Princess Myra, I stand before you with respect and love. I promise to honor your heart, to learn from your people, and to share my life. With you, Myra looked at him and felt her nerves quiet. She spoke softly, yet every word was clear. Ethan, I was afraid of what I did not know. You have shown me kindness and trust. I promise to stand by you, to share my world and my heart. With you, I feel strength and hope. They exchanged simple ring silver bands with a single blue gem. The rings matched their worlds. When they placed the rings on each other's fingers, the hall filled with gentle light from the twin suns, shining through the glass ceiling. As they bowed to the guests, the crowd cheered. Lyrae and human hands clapped together. Myra looked at Ethan and felt joy so full it seemed to glow inside her chest. She knew they had built something that would last. After the ceremony, there was a feast in the palace courtyard under the stars. Tables lined with food from both worlds, fruits that glowed, breads with silver leaf, roasted meats and sweet cakes. Myra and Ethan moved among the guests, sharing smiles and laughter. Ethan showed Myra a dance from Earth, and she laughed as she tried to follow. Myra's friend Lyra came to her side. You look so happy, she said. Myra nodded. This is the best day of my life. Lyra whispered, he is a good man. Myra smiled and squeezed her friend's hand. Later, Myra and Ethan stood by the palace lake. The water reflected the stars and lanterns. Ethan held her close. We did it, he said. Myra leaned against him. We did, together. They spoke of plans for the future. Trade routes, cultural exchanges, families meeting. Myra thought of her people learning English. Ethan thought of humans studying Lyrae history. They walked back into the palace and found a small crowd waiting. Children from both worlds held a banner that read, Welcome, Princes and Ambassador. The children smiled as Myra and Ethan passed. Myra knelt to speak to them. Thank you for this gift. Ethan joined her. You are our future. The children cheered again. When the crowds left, Myra and Ethan stood alone in the silent hall. They held hands and looked at each other. Myra spoke first. I used to be afraid of humans. I thought they were cold. But you showed me that kindness is the same in any world. Ethan smiled. I thought aliens were distant and strange. But you showed me that our hearts beat the same. They shared a quiet kiss, gentle as a promise. That night, Myra placed the pressed flower and the blue stone side by side on her bedside table. She thought about her journey from fear to trust, from doubt to love. She closed her eyes and felt peace. In the morning, the palace awoke to a new world. Lyrae and humans walked side by side. New ships flew between planets. Children learned both languages. Gardens bloomed under Earth and Lyrae's stars. Myra and Ethan walked through the gardens together. Myra held his hand and smiled. We will lead with kindness, she said. Ethan kissed her forehead. Always. They reached the Hall of Mirrors where they first found calm. Myra stepped inside and turned to Ethan. Thank you, she said. Ethan took her hand. Thank you for trusting me. They left the hall and stepped into the sunlight. Their future lay before them, bright and open, joined by their gentle natures and the hope they shared. The story of Princess Myra and Ambassador Ethan would be told for generations, a tale of fear turned to love, of two worlds united by kindness, and of a gentle heart that won the galaxy's trust.